So that song is really good and really intense, but I just noticed that lyric. If you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, yeah, I'd say if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, you've got your work cut out for you. That's a pretty tough. It's tough to create that reality. If you're 5'3", you got to really, go hard to get to 300. That's a pretty high weight for that height. Other than that, I feel like the lyrics of that song are pretty tight. I've been up since 4:50 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. I was under the impression that I was going to be driving out of town, but I woke up to a tsunami over here in New York. The rain was completely out of control. Literally couldn't go outside. It was gnarly. So I'm 4 espressos deep, ready to cook right now. 5 hours into my day almost at 9:06 a.m. It's Friday, last show of the week. We have an ultra special guest today. Sergio Silva, Sergito, will be joining us in no time. And what a good day to have him on after the market vomited yesterday. Nifty Nick, how you doing, big guy? You look great this morning. Look at you.
I'm doing pretty well. Why is it a good day to have him on? Is he good at vomiting?
He could be. I don't know. I don't know what his vomiting history is like, but I just figure he might be able to give us some insight as to what he's thinking about after that market dump. I don't know. Do you have any insight, Nick?
No. There's literally no insight. I was taken aback, honestly. I was just taken aback. The CNBC had said it was because of interest rates was one thing it was mentioning. I keep seeing that like mortgages will be 8% at some point.
Aren't they already? Like, aren't mortgages like 6.5%, 7%? Like,
well, that's 8%. Different than 8.
But it wouldn't shock me. Like at this point, it's also like, who's going to be buying a house? We have so many people locked in at like 2.5% to 3%. I'm more worried about commercial real estate. We just watched Evergrande go underwater. We just saw China basically ask for a bailout. It's not pretty out there in them streets.
It doesn't look good. I bought some more crypto yesterday when it was tanking, but
me too. Obviously.
I don't know. I'm like, am I smoking crack? Like, are we just being ridiculous here? Are we going to lose every dollar that we put into this?
You weren't really thinking that, though.
Probably. We're going to lose it all.
First of all, let me tell you, Nick, your energy this morning is contagious, buddy. I can't get over the pizzazz.
We got 5-hour Nick today, 5-hour PO today. It's just great. We're on a roll.
I didn't sleep enough. I don't know what to tell you.
You drank 2 glasses of wine.
That was the
dinner.
problem.
Yeah, dude.
I did a science experiment, and turns out you just didn't get enough deep sleep.
What was the science experiment? Yeah, what stupid science experiment? Tell me about this. Let me hear this.
Well, it turns out if you drink and you go to sleep,
you don't sleep well.
Yeah.
And if you're not hydrated enough and probably didn't exercise at all in days, then that probably doesn't help either. Nick and I, the science guy over here, ladies and gentlemen, if you drink 2 big glasses of red wine with a whole fish, again, though, Nick out orders me at a restaurant, literally crushes me. Me, Nick, and Clemente went out last night, have a little dinner to celebrate Clemente's move to New York, ladies and gentlemen. Nick is one of the best orderers at restaurants that I know. I don't even know how he does it. I think it's a natural talent. There's so many instances where I look at Nick's plate and then I look at my plate and I'm like, well, I should have ordered what he got. And he orders these things that you wouldn't think to order. He'll order like the haddock. And it's like, dude, who's really ordering the haddock?
What is haddock?
Oh, very funny, dude. Very funny. You're out here ordering haddock left and right, but then on the show, you're like, I don't know what haddock is.
What is haddock? Are you talking about?
HADDOCK. It's a fish, buddy. You're Mr. Fish at restaurants. What'd you get last night? It was like a whole trout or something, a whole brand. No, not a trout. That'd be a big ass fish.
No. It was actually starts with a B. It was a
Branzino.
Branzino. There you go.
Someone said Nick uses ChatGPT for his food orders, but those were 2 big glasses of red wine, buddy. I'm not surprised you didn't sleep so well.
Well, you should report me to the authorities, PO, for having done that. I mean, that was just, I can't believe that I did that. That was just insane. It was pure insanity. I thought it was a good idea at the time. It wasn't. and here I am just
I just can't
wrecked.
listen to you speak right now, dude. It's just uncomfortable. It's just so rough. I'm gonna be leaning on easy today, and of course leaning.
I'm ecstatic today. I'm good to go. I got 9 hours. We're chilling. We got the Bitcoin ETF news dropping today. We're waiting on that anxiously. The market's chopping. We had a beautiful rebound on the ETH chart after the volatile sell-off due to the ETH NFT future, or ETH futures volatility ETF getting approved. It's beautiful. I was short Blur. Took a massive short position Blur 37 seconds before that red candle. It was a 400x. It was the dumbest trade I've ever made.
Did you lock it in?
I locked it in immediately. As soon as I saw the number just skyrocket up, I just pressed flash close, which gave me a terrible rate on the close, but I'll take it any day. Any day. It was the most pure luck ever. The chart literally has me on the 1 minute chart. I am the candle right before the sell-off. Like literally the candle immediately before the sell-off. I was like, this was the dumbest timing ever.
The Bitcoin chart doesn't look great. You're talking about it rebounding right now.
No,
I don't know.
The ETH chart rebounded on the back of the ETH ETF futures being approved yesterday. If you look,
what Bitcoin are you talking about?
But look at the hourly on ETH. It doesn't. I wouldn't call it a rebound.
It re-ate the entire candle. The whole candle.
Was it medium rare? That candle?
Look at that. Eat the whole candle. But yes, we're still in the downtrend. I wouldn't say it's medium rare. I think it's closer to your halibut, which wasn't halibut.
What? This is the daily that you're looking at, the 1 day. Okay. Well, you're talking about the big dump last night, and then that was a crazy candle. Bitcoin did the similar thing, but now it's slowly.
It's still both downtrending. It's ugly.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. At this point, all of my buys look stupid, and I'm just gonna sell and call it quits, Pio.
Okay, there you go. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, I brought Clemente on camera to zap a little youth into this. Clemente, ladies and gentlemen, about to turn 24 years old. Spring chicken over here. The prefrontal cortex of his brain is not done developing yet. If you want to get biological,
he's frozen. By the way.
He's frozen, but he's not frozen. He's frozen on the screen, but he's not frozen in spirit. Meanwhile, we got Mr. Consistent Nifty Nick. You know, that player that shows up every single game with the same level of would the word be resolute? I don't know. It might be.
Pio's just mad. Dude, Pio's just pissed off. He's this is what happens when someone has a bad day. That's why, dude. I'm
having a great day. You sound like literally.
I'm saying like my energy always at the top peak? No, it's not always at the top.
But it's usually over an 8, and you're riding a cold 3 today, Nick.
Real quick, easy. Even as Nick tries to roast me, which I know is one of Nick's favorite things in the whole wide world. I know that he absolutely loves that. It's almost like it's like if you have like a remote control car and the battery's like, almost dead, but it's still going. It's just going a little bit slower than it normally would. Like even as he's trying to roast me, he's kind of like, yeah, well, your beard look, yeah, exactly. It's funny. I almost left anyway at like 6:30 a.m. when the rain stopped this morning, and I was like, well, Nick can just host the show. But then I was like, we got a guest today. Sergito needs to actually want to come back to the show after this. I can't trust Nick to just host it by himself. I can trust Clemente too, but Clemente's still on the junior side, so I had to pull up for our special guest.
Well,
Sergito,
if you bring that
today.
energy, I'll just leave and you can fuck off. Okay, that's what we'll do. Thank you.
No, I don't want you to leave, Nick. I want you to stay and charge your batteries.
I don't feel wanted here.
We want you. We just want
you here, man.
We want 9-hour Nick. We don't want 3-hour Nick.
7-hour Nick.
Look, what a batting average of like 300 is insane, right? So, and I'm batting like 800. It's unheard of. Okay, so I bring the energy 80% of the time, dude. If you have an employee that's showing up 80% of the time with their top-notch level, you're gonna just be like, yo, take Fridays off and you're good, and I'll pay you the same salary. That's what my bosses used to say, Nick, show up for 2 days a week because you're outperforming, you're dominating the field so aggressively. That's how my bosses used to communicate with me. They would say, Nick, you're dominating the field.
Nick, I just got a DM from one of your old bosses, and they actually said that's a true statement, but it's because they felt uncomfortable with you in the office.
That's pretty,
wild card.
pretty funny. Probably accurate. Look, we're happy to have
20% is 200% of basically everybody. Okay,
there's the Nick O'Neill bravado we're all looking for. Well, look, we'll take any version of Nick that we'll get, including cranky ones. Any version of Nick is better than no Nick. Any version of Nick is better than no Nick. Look, we got a lot to dive into today. We are going to be joined in just a moment by a very special guest, Sergio Silva, also known in the NFT space as Sergito, friend of the show. He's made
the crowd goes crazy.
Several appearances in the past. We're going to discuss the crypto flash crash, the current state of affairs for NFTs, and how founders can manage community expectations, as well as some predictions for the rest of 2023. Oh, now we got Nick revved up. He's like a lawnmower when you're pulling the cord to get it going. Also, I love how
we're
Nick
having the
turned
Nick play-by-play from Pio. Thank you for every single move that I make is documented and narrated. Thank you very much for that, Pio. Let's bring on Sergio and let's get rid of Pio.
Well, we're going to bring him on in a second. Did you just bring him on, Nick? We're bringing Sergio on in a second.
You kick him off. What the hell?
Stop bringing the guest on early. No, we got to do the weather report. Then we're bringing him on. And now you're wasting time. No, stop bringing him on. He's not ready to come on yet. And then real quick, I also love that you went to baseball for the 300 average. I'd prefer a free throw percentage comparison, a nice 90% like Steph Curry. That's what I'd prefer. But anyway, Signal's not here today. Kicks is not here today.
Okay, fine. I'll do it.
A Nick O'Neill weather report with a 3-hour Nick. This should be juicy. Please take it away, Nick.
We need the sound effect. Can you play it? Hit me. Okay, I guess that I was thinking we were getting more of a juice. Wow. It's your weather. Coming from the weatherman, Nick O'Neill. Market volume on just across the board is shit. Blur 10.5, OpenSea 4.4. This market still exists though. That's a crazy thing. You wouldn't imagine it. My mom says, "What the hell are you doing with your life?" Mom, I'm talking about NFTs. Leaders, Apes 27, Punks 47.9, Mutants 5.3, D-Gods 4.3, Captains 4.2, Azuki 4.3, Pudgy Penguins 3.8, below 4. Whoa, shit. Milady's 4.1. These are numbers. Over the past 24
so many
hours,
numbers. That's more numbers than usual. That was quite a few numbers.
That was a lot of them.
I like that. I like that a lot.
How about you give us like 40 collections that I can just ramble off, Clemente? Jeez Louise. Over the past 24 hours, Doodles held a holders only opening of their Camp Store physical location yesterday and featured new merch lines and physical collectibles and unveiled their 2 storytelling characters. Let's go. Their camp collection is also available online, featuring a Doodles-themed kids collection with backpacks, water bottles, stickers, and more. Damn, I want to check this thing out. Did you pull this up on the screen? Wow, look at this. You're watching YouTube. Sick. You already see it. That's because everyone in this market acts like they're 6 years old, so I wouldn't be surprised that they enjoy this. Rec Leagues Mint struggled to gain traction yesterday, largely due to fear about the increased supply being given to Yugo holders after the Mint causing more sell pressure. Only 1/3 of the majestic boxes, and about 60% of the booster boxes have been, there's no word, the last word there is missing. I'm guessing minted. And the Mint, yep, and the Mint will close today at 12 p.m. Eastern, and all unsold boxes will be burned. So how many did they sell? What's the total number here?
It's about 9,000 of the 25K that have sold, and then booster boxes, I believe, are halfway sold out.
And what's the price to mint?
It's 0.15 roughly, in ETH equivalent. So
0.15 ETH. Damn.
Yeah, expensive. And for a 25K supply plus booster boxes, I looked at this. Someone had hit me up because I forgot to do the KYC because I want to play the game. But inherently now I'm looking at this and I'm like, I think I'll be able to get this for under 0.1 because the game doesn't drop till September. And that's 2 weeks in the NFT space. In 2 weeks, can find 6 meme coins, get rugged 4 times, and watch a cascading liquidation. And then we'll see a proper price.
Whoa, whack alert. Can we get that sound effect, Pio? Can you put okay.
Can you just make
Whoa,
I like this
whack
better.
alert.
Whoa, whack alert.
That's wiggity whack. Kevin Rose and Cirrus completed a trade last night. Good on them. With Kevin Rose trading a Chromie Squiggle, 2 Moonbirds, 4 Moonbird Mythics, and 4 Wheat in exchange for a Grail Glitch Moonbird, which was originally purchased for $275,000. Anyone that bought an NFT for over $275,000 is in Rec League. That's where they are right now. Lastly, crypto flash crash yesterday. A lot of us felt like just taking the leap, calling it quits. Largely caused by large selling of Bitcoin. That's an interesting phrase. Largely caused by large selling of Bitcoin and cascading liquidations, with false reports of SpaceX selling 350 million Bitcoin. So that was just a bullshit announcement.
They had wrote it off. Yeah, they basically said that they had, like, a report came out, they had sold it like in 2022, but it had came out pretty recently. So
I'm tweeting that Elon Musk is selling X because the crypto people are the only people using this product, and he's had enough of these jerk offs. Hit a low of 24.8K and ETH hit a low of 1480, with many people doomsday limit orders buying the dip. Doomsday limit orders?
Yeah, the quote. Sorry. So do you see the quotation marks in there? It's the doomsday. They set these limit orders. It's like, hey, if shit hits the fan, this thing's gonna hit, and they hit easy.
And they hit
at his biggest buying day in the last.
Sorry, you got cut out there, Clemente.
Just keeps freezing, dude.
Clemente has to keep calling his internet provider there.
He needs a mesh router.
No, he just needs.
Well,
what's
East
going on?
Village
Do you have
buildings
BIOS? What type of internet do you have?
Those buildings in the East Village are just so old and dumb.
Spectrum.
He has dial-up.
What's the speed? What's the max limit you got on that? You got gigabit?
500.
So you didn't even buy gigabit?
It was like $80 a month for this Wi-Fi.
I guess we don't pay you enough. Your literal job is to be on the internet on video every day, and you skimped out on the internet? I mean, we're literally going to have a meeting to discuss this later. Nick, are you done with the weather report, or do you have to keep going?
I'm good. I've had enough of this.
Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm going to go make a coffee while you read this other thing. Enjoy this.
Okay. About to bring on our very special guest today, Sergio Silva, currently working at Fireblock. Excited to have him on. Some quick updates from the Nifty Daily Digest, which is the daily newsletter that you can subscribe to at thenifty.com. You need to have an account at thenifty.com for the free NFTs that we give away on the show almost daily, so make sure you do it. So OpenSea has announced that at the end of the month, creator royalties will become completely optional, with some exceptions applying to collections utilizing OpenSea's operator filter. Saw Gabe Layden calling out OpenSea and other major NFT marketplaces by name, saying that they do not value creators. Got to think he might be right. Sugartown, the Web3 native game created by Zynga, announced that their upcoming mint will be free, emphasizing their commitment to player empowerment and collaborative building with the community. Last but not least, Pixelmon's on-chain summer-based chain drop is live, featuring a Summer Kevin Open Edition. Minting this NFT gives you the chance to enter a raffle for a Pixelmon egg, access to in-person events, a mini game, and the opportunity to buy a physical collectible. That's actually pretty funny, that thing that you have pulled up on screen there, Clemente, of Kevin. So look, those are your updates from the Nifty Daily Digest. Now on to introducing today's very special guest, been on the show before, longtime NFT market participant, Nifty Gateway OG, former Goldman Sachs guy, Sergio Silva. How's it going, Sergito?
Hey guys, how's my audio?
It's a little low.
How about now?
I think that sounds better. How's it going?
Good. Excited to be here. Excited to be back. It's been a while, and I'm just honestly impressed by like how much you guys improved from when you were doing it, back in 2021. I was listening to the show the other day, and Nick was calling out people who were like, "Oh, you guys told us like we wouldn't be able to race with this deck." I was one of them, and I apologize. I'm very impressed with the product that you guys have put out, and I'm just happy that you guys invited me back. But I'll own it. I don't know if he was like subtweeting me before me coming onto the show or not, so I'll just jump right onto that grenade and own it. It was different times, but no, you guys, I mean, geez, you have employees and shit. That's amazing.
Well, first of all, it's hilarious that you just basically negged us and we're like, yeah, you guys used to suck at this. I also think it's hilarious you brought up our deck. So fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, when me and Nick for this business, well, really mostly Nick, raised capital for it at the literal top of the crypto market. Like in hindsight, it was literally at the top. It was October 2021. And even the people that gave us capital, you know, the people that actually invested in us said that the deck sucked. It was just a terrible deck. And now that I've seen a lot more decks, I'm like, yeah, our deck was an absolute joke. It's a miracle that we were able to raise 7 figures.
Yeah, screw y'all. Screw you.
Love you, Nick.
Nick made the deck. Nick's proud of everything he does. He made the deck. Anyway, Sergio, welcome back to the show. What a perfect time to have you on the show. Yesterday was a wild day. You're a longtime finance guy, used to work at Goldman. Now you work at Fireblocks. And I mean, look, you're very in tune with what happens with markets. What do you make of what happened yesterday, man?
Well, first of all, it was kind of hilarious because I was sitting here on my computer and my wife was like, can you please come to dinner? You've been sitting there the whole day. And I said, okay. And we live in a small apartment, so it's like 2 steps to dinner. But before that, I turn around and I just see like the gigantic red candle. And I literally just try to buy stuff on Coinbase, but Coinbase was broken. So I jumped on GMX and I had a little balance there and just threw it all in, like 20x leverage. And that was really nice. I feel like a lot of people did that and then went looking for the headline. I don't think candles like that are very natural, and usually liquidation candles like that are good short-term buys. And so I looked at the Telegram trying to look for a reason, and people were like, we don't know, we're just buying. I'm like, all right. And then obviously the news, that came out that claiming Elon's SpaceX had sold, $300 or something million of Bitcoin, which was not true. I had seen the headline earlier in the day where it said that they had written down the value. Obviously, they bought Bitcoin back, it started in 2021. So they were just making accounting adjustments like every other business writes down their capital assets when they depreciate. And found it very interesting, but honestly, I didn't think, I just aped. Whenever I think too much, I don't make money and I end up losing money. So I think I started as a finance guy and I'm just like the crypto guy as well, where you pays to go with a little bit of experience and the feeling and it's just the intricacies of crypto, right? Where 7 p.m. at night and $500 million are just evaporating on Binance liquidations. Like you don't get that anywhere else, and I think that's why it attracts all of us with deep mental health problems to be here and be so glued to the screens at 7 p.m. right before dinner.
Love it. It sounds like you had a good day yesterday amongst, amid the chaos. We had your buddy Raoul Paul on the show exactly 1 week ago, I believe. You've made contributions to his great platform, Real Vision. When we talked to him, I want to kind of go over a couple of things and see what you think of them. He actually speculated that we could actually see an interest rate cut, some messaging surrounding that from the Fed this year. Given just the kind of chaos that we've seen and the uncertainty in the market, do you think that's viable? That's a viable opinion?
Listen, I've learned, especially being in crypto, that everything has a probability of happening. I think Raul's been really right this year in that risk assets were going to rally into all the concerns that we've had. And if you think about rates, like they really didn't do shit to risk, right? Like the Fed kept rate hiking and hiking and hiking, and risk assets rallied back. S&P almost back to all-time highs. Obviously, Bitcoin and Ether not quite so, but up 80% on the year. And that in the face of rate hikes. So you really start to wonder if any kind of rate cut will actually, cause a further rally. Like I don't know. I will feel weird thinking, you can have your cake and eat it too. Obviously, what's happened over the last couple of weeks in stocks is more of a combination of, low liquidity. We usually see these kinds of moves in the summer. It's August. The finance industry is concentrated in the tri-state area. People go down the shore. People go out east to the Hamptons. Liquidity is very low. The couple flash crashes we've had have been in the summer. And so moves get accentuated. And then this last couple of years, we've had the zero day to expiry options, right? Which is this phenomenon that did not exist before. These contracts did not exist before, and speculators are literally not even day trading anymore. They're like hour trading with options that start becoming kind of like tail wags the dog situation. So I don't know. I think over the short term, flow dominates the markets. I think, medium to long term, it's clear the economy is slowing down. So that means, yes, we will have a rate cut. I think for a rate cut to have a meaningful positive impact, you will need to first have more of a sell-off.
Very interesting stuff. Very interesting. And when Raul was on, he talked about the assets that he was accumulating. I know you're a big Ethereum guy. You're obviously a big CryptoPunk guy and other NFTs, and we're going to get to the NFT stuff. But Raul let us know he's buying, Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, Dogecoin were the four that he talked about. He also mentioned Pepe just because, his pals, and I'm sure you know them too, OSF and Mando, so big on Pepe. They've been, talking to Raul about it. What do you make of that portfolio? And are those, coins that you have exposure to?
Yeah, so I have all of them. I think, poor Paul, Raul, it feels bad because he had the $10,000 call for Ethereum back in the day. And people thought you're in crypto, you're a degen watching everything. You're probably 90% of the way in the market in something, right? And so when people hear kind of like almost outrageous calls like that, and they feel like, oh, you put all your money into it. And he had calls, obviously, right? They're small part of a portfolio. Options should never be the majority of your portfolio, just like JPEGs should never be the majority of your net worth. I think that people gave him a bad rap for that call, when in reality, they went to zero, and could have been the same thing as just they could have gone to zero even if Ether went to $9,000 by the end of the year, right? That doesn't really make a difference. As for the portfolio that you mentioned, Solana is one that really stands out because obviously after SBF, it really cratered. I see the value in the low transaction costs. We continue to see a lot of builders. I obviously work at Fireblocks. We're pretty much the leading provider of institutional wallets. We still see a lot of building in Solana. We don't see as much building and demand for Bitcoin actually, but as you saw the performance this year, it will continue to dominate the mind share of people when they come to crypto, right? It's Bitcoin. So in a market that is mostly composed of narratives, Bitcoin will continue to capture a lot of that. Pepe, I'm quite bitter that I missed it early on. I heard that Pauly was involved, and just I do like to think I have a sense of morality and not supporting people like him. And so I decided to sit it out, and then I definitely regret it. And then after the community kind of took over, I bought some on Gemini, just to kind of keep it there, not worry too much about it. And then recently on the meme coin stuff, I bought Shiba. Was it Harry Potter, Shiba, whatever,
Harry Potter, Obama 10, Sonic Inu.
Thank you, EC. That's right. I started kind of interacting with the Milady community, and I know you said we're going to NFTs in a little bit, but kind of just started looking at the world in a different way. And kind of my meme bag now has tokens and other than just NFTs.
Well, it's hilarious that you have exposure to $ Bitcoin, Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Tenino. Didn't expect that to come out. I want to move on to NFTs, but before I do, Easy or Nick, do you have any questions for Sergito, maybe about the macro stuff or anything that he's seen in stocks or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my main question would be macro economy wise, we're seeing a lot of causes of concern when it comes to commercial real estate, rates, obviously, some of these other bigger things that are playing out. And a lot of people are speculating that next year is potentially the start of the bull cycle with Bitcoin halving going on, with potentially some rate cuts coming in. I'm just curious, what your thoughts are when it comes to traditional finance and its current status, because a lot of people tend to overlook that despite it having some correlation to crypto.
Yeah, so you think of traditional finance in those markets, it's kind of very fundamental, people know what the fuck they're doing and they're smart, and the reality is not. It's also just like crypto narratives, and also very short-term driven. And I think that all these worries that we're going to start facing into end of Q3 and then Q4, everything from the student loan repayments going back online, obviously real estate is fucked. It is just so fucked in so many different ways, right? And so that doesn't just crash like Bitcoin did last night. You just don't see a candle. It's okay, it's over, right? That takes time. All that leverage, all those positioning, it takes a lot of time to unwind. And unfortunately, I think that's going to work its way through the system little by little, and that's the pressure that we'll see, and that's where I potentially will see some sort of like, you know, rate cut and monetary easing that will most likely drive yet again another, you know, rally in the crypto markets and some of those assets that lead. If you look at Bitcoin as a leading indicator of inflation, I mean, Bitcoin rallied massively a year before we had inflation, and then it completely deflated a year before we had deflation. So, you know, I think that monetary stimulus will resume at some point, and Bitcoin and crypto will probably be the tell again 12 to 18 months in advance. And that's why it's such a good macro asset, and why macro people are starting to look at it, right? Because time in crypto goes times like 5 times faster than time in traditional finance. Even if you just divide the number of hours in a working day for the stock market per week over the 24/7 365 that we have in crypto, so things just move so much faster. And I think that real estate's fucked. Stocks probably take a wobble into the fall. The Fed, probably just kind of like chills out a little bit. But the reality is that, you see it walking around the city, like economic demand's still there. People are still spending money. People are still like driving up their credit cards. They're still buying stupid shit. Like I have a lot of friends in Texas that went from renters to Airbnb hosts. And they grew up, I'm 37. So like in our 20s watching fucking Joanna and her husband, like House Flipper or like Rehab or whatever, HGTV is like this great show about like, rehabbing houses and flipping them. So 10 years of watching that shit on the weekend, like all hungover. And then you finally get a chance to buy a house and rehab it and rent it out. And I have a lot of friends that went from renters to landlords and really just, making a couple $100 a month extra from the real estate, either renting or Airbnb. And now as that turns around and they start finding themselves underwater or having to pay $400 more per month to their student loans, that situation is going to change. And so, I think we'll see that play out slower, but it definitely will be a headwind to risk assets. And then once crypto realizes again, like, more stimulus is coming, it'll be the first to move and you'll want to be there for it.
So you said a lot of really juicy stuff there, and I want to dig into a couple of different things. So I want to talk about real estate because it seems like you've been paying a lot of attention to it, and you have some good takes on it. And I want to dive into that. But first, so on the kind of Bitcoin being and the crypto markets being a forward-looking asset, we actually had on the Bitcoin show that we do, another podcast. We had a gentleman named Joe Consorti, really smart macro guy, young kid, like 27, hoping to get him actually on this show in the future. But he said the same thing that you said. He brought up Airbnb, and he said that if you look on Airbnb.com at how many Airbnbs are available in any major city, there are so many. It's insane. And at some point, if we're going to be in a recession or if there's going to be like economic turmoil, you can't expect these Airbnb businesses to be profitable, let alone sustainable. And you talked about the stock market, and what Joe said when he came on the show was he pointed out that when you see Bitcoin and the crypto markets kind of frozen, just trading sideways, chopping, it's an indicator because they're so forward looking and so pure that we're not out of the woods yet, right? If Bitcoin's not pumping, you can't expect us to be totally out of the woods. So you speculate that stocks will have a bumpy fall, and until we see maybe a crypto pump, then you're not going to see like QE and you're not going to see rate cuts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the pump comes before the rate cuts. Actually, no. Maybe kind of along the same lines. I think we'll definitely have a little bit of a hard time here with just the real economy. And remember, right, markets are about narratives. And so if the narrative starts becoming, things are really slowing down, then people start getting worried about earnings, and then multiples start coming in. Obviously, with rates higher, right, you're discounting future cash flows. That's what everybody says. Nobody's really doing that, but let's go with it, right? But obviously, profitless tech companies, their non-existent earnings you discount them more, and what happens is that you get a scenario where that narrative takes over, and so people start playing that scenario and pushing that to make money on that side, because you can make money on both sides. Indicators like, for example, you look at the latest quarterly report, like quarterly earnings for Sweetgreens and Kava, both kind of like, fast office lunch kind of places. Those companies both reported that their delivery business really slowed down over the last quarter, which is super interesting, right? Because people, one, are going back to the office, which means they're having, to spend on tolls, gas, they have less discretionary income. And or two, people feel less rich, where now you, instead of paying $5 to get Uber Eats delivering your lunch, you might just go walk the 2 blocks away, to the Sweetgreens. And I think it's little stuff like that you can start taking as forward indicators of that consumer spend, that discretionary spend really starting to come in. Macro is very exciting because it's about like almost putting a puzzle together with pieces like those, right? You look at, for example, auction prices for used cars, and you start seeing, cars that are getting repoed, they start coming in with a lot less miles than the last few quarters. You're like, okay, well, people are turning in the car earlier, and it really, if you like putting kind of like following trails like that, macro is super interesting. Macro is beyond the rates higher, lower, and that's it. It's really taking together all those kinds of feeds of data, stats, and trying to build a picture of something and then see how that fits into the broader narrative and flow framework.
Absolutely. Very cool insight there with the restaurant delivery services. I think that New York City is such like an interesting microcosm of the economy because you can point to so many things like that. On the real estate front, I mean, you're a New Yorker. Me and Nick both live in New York. Clemente just moved here. I think we all probably rent. I don't know if you own your apartment in New York, but I figure, yeah, we all probably rent. When you think about real estate, I think there's two things that people can easily understand. They can understand that mortgage rates are incredibly high. So if you're going to buy a house in suburban New Jersey, like a 2-bedroom house, your mortgage is still going to probably be like over $4K a month, if not over $5 or $6K a month easily. And then also, I think people can understand that post-COVID, post-2020, remote work is so prominent. I mean, we're a remote organization. There is no office. Clemente comes over to my apartment sometimes and works in person, but that doesn't really count. And anytime I go to a co-working space for a meeting with another Web3 company or to go and work with a friend that has access to a co-working space, barely anybody is there. It is a very, very different situation than pre-2020, at least from my perspective. So I think people can understand that commercial real estate maybe doesn't command the value that it once did. You seem to be very opinionated on how messed up the real estate situation is. Could you just kind of like, expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So for commercial real estate, I mean, you nailed it, right? Like there's just a lot less people in offices. And it's not so easy to repurpose buildings into residential. I think for residential real estate, yes, the supply is low. And people will point, well, you have a 2%, 3% mortgage. Of course, you don't want to sell. A lot of those people moved out of cities, right? Like a lot of New Yorkers moved down to Miami and it was cool. And, so many of those friends are coming back now because they're like, okay, Miami was good for 2 years, but it's 100 degrees and it's humid for 4 months out of the year. And by the way, I work for, a hedge fund and they want us back in the office. My wife used to work flex the whole week for 2 years and now she's back in the office 4 days out of the week. And it's like, so will that save commercial? No, but it's enough to, I think, put a dent on the demand for residential. And also, as we've seen in NFTs, right? Like who sets the prices on the market? It's the marginal buyer and seller. So the marginal buyer of real estate today is looking at mortgage payments that are not all-time highs, but like 20-year highs because of rates. Not only that, but prices of homes are really high just given the rally that we've had in them. So the marginal buyer is probably not as strong as you had the last couple of years, where people were flush with cash and really, could move out and just live in New Hampshire. Now, the marginal seller is probably going to start being those guys that have the third, fourth rental property, or the guy that's like, okay, or woman, or anything that just want to be very
nice,
correct for everybody. I'm Mexican, I think in Spanish, and they have to say shit in English, so like it doesn't really translate too well sometimes.
When I translate, it comes out sexist. So
I'm Mexican. We have gender fucking words. I'm sorry, I didn't come up with the language. right? Casa is home. It's feminine. Like you don't say Cas X, but anyways, that's
Dude, it's
fine.
all good. I'm Jewish, and when I speak, it comes out racist accidentally sometimes. So like that's like the thing. It's just like, but that's like a
I
Jewish
can be
thing.
racist.
Okay.
I'm Mexican. Oh, but as I was saying before, I rudely interrupted myself with my joke. No, it's one of those things. Marginal buyers, marginal sellers, and so people are not really right now just YOLOing buying houses. And then people who have to, who don't have to sell, won't sell. And then who has supply of houses? Builders. And you're seeing builders do really, really well because for them it's product. It's a very different economic perspective, right? They're just building houses. They might build them a little smaller. They can give you buy down money for the rate on the mortgage. They have so much profit in the house that they can definitely just take a little bit less profit and still move product. Whereas a secondary homeowner or like a natural person owning a house, it's a very different dynamic. And so I think that's where the market is going to continue to show weakness in real estate as we go. Again, the selling season in real estate is spring and summer, hasn't looked too hot. So now we're really going into literally winter. And we'll see what happens. And so, yeah, I think it's super interesting. But yeah, I think real estate's fucked.
Well, let's say someone bought something now at these high interest rates. I think they'd probably go into it with the game plan of like, let me just get into the market and then maybe I refi in a few years. Is that a viable strategy, or do you think they're going to get screwed? Like, is this like a bubble that's going to pop? Like, what do you think of that?
I mean, if you can afford a mortgage today and you like the house and you need a house and you have steady source of income, great, buy the house and, just be happy. I think a lot of people who bought houses over the last few years, and you can see it on the stats, were investors, right? People who were buying them to flip or buying them to rent out. And so at some point, if those things stop cash flowing, as they say, that's going to be a very different scenario, right? So if you have a house, if you have a need for a house, you can afford the mortgage today at this rate, great, right? If rates do come down in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, yeah, you refinance and you're in a good spot. I don't think it's an investment strategy. I think it's a residential, finding a place to live strategy. But the trade of, buying a house, waiting 6 months for it to appreciate and then flipping it, I think that's not viable anymore. And again, you removed a very large pool of money chasing these assets.
Great response. Nick, do you have a question for Sergito? It looks like you might, or I might be reading you wrong.
No,
totally reading you wrong.
It was a message from yeah, I was getting a text message. I was responding to. My apologies.
Nice. Okay. Well, anyway, moving on to NFTs with Sergito. So Sergito, you got into NFTs, I want to say early 2021, Nifty Gateway days, correct?
Yes, for better or worse. Yes.
Well, yeah. Look, man, I think people need to understand. A lot of people probably see you with the crypto punk. They see you having successes in the space, and they might not know how damn volatile the experience of being in the space has been, especially for those of us that came from Nifty Gateway, because you were like, what I call like an early whale on Nifty Gateway, and that was a crazy ride, right? That was pretty damn wild. And then did you get into Bored Apes, or did you skip Bored Apes? Like, how did that play out?
All right, so Nifty Gateway, I was aware just because my Amex kept going through at some point. It's the only time in my life where American Express called me and said, your platinum has been blocked. What the hell are you buying? And I was like, I'm buying art. But anyways, I did not mint apes. I didn't like, I'm a very proud punk owner. I would, I've said punks changed my life in a really good way, and not because of the money. They just gave me, coming from a very traditional finance background, it's really hard to assign monetary value to JPEGs. And so punks helped me change my perspective on digital assets. And for that, I'll always be, a grateful, proud punk holder. And then obviously the community and everything that came afterwards. But I'm talking about a specific point in time where apes came about, and there was a very loud group of ape holders or people who were going to mint apes, and they were just annoying as fuck. And they were just annoying as fuck, honestly. And so I didn't mint apes. I had 3 apes. 2 were gifted to me. 1 was a trade. And I did tell people to mint apes. I did, encourage people to mint them. I particularly didn't. I actually dumped my Meebits when I got them to that week. I didn't like them at the time, and just I don't know. I was just coming off the Nifty bubble and kind of like, you know, took some beatings on some shit, and I was just like, all right, let me just rethink this whole strategy. So no, I didn't mint apes. I had apes. I've traded apes. Apes have treated me very, very well from the trading side, but no, not a minter.
Got it. And obviously you have CryptoPunks. How many are you up to now? Because you've had them, you've sold them, you've bought more, right? How many CryptoPunks do you have?
Yeah, I have 4 right now. I had a one attribute that sold a couple of weeks ago. Kind of just listed it at a price that was reasonable. Didn't want to sell it, but it was one of those things where like you pay me that money, I'm happy, and it has a chance to sell, and somebody bought it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was nice. So I have 4 left. Actually, there's an announcement coming on my main punk next week or 2 about something that's going to happen with that punk, which I'm excited about. And then, you know, we have my wife's punk, which is probably the best one we have. Really looks like her. It's a 3D glasses, straight brown hair. And then, yeah, a blondie and like a albino with a big beard that I'd really like to.
Nice. And in your mind, are CryptoPunks the safest NFT buy that someone can make? Obviously, if they have the capital, it's not a cheap asset. But when you think about punks, maybe against some of the fine art projects that end up getting sold at Sotheby's and Christie's, like Ringers, Fidenzas, and the like, and then you think about Bored Ape Yacht Club and the assets in the Yuga Labs ecosystem, I think there's kind of universal agreement that this is the top of the heap overall. To you, is punks the number one, or is it something else?
I think calling any NFT safe is probably gonna get me into as much hot water one day as Raul got for saying, you know, Ether might go to 10K. I have some calls on it. You're totally right in that having a large portion of your net worth in JPEGs is just not safe, right? So if, you know, people who have punks like myself that got them early, I paid 10K for my first punk. I think it's a little different than somebody coming in and what's the floor, $80,000, $90,000 today, right? Like that is a lot of fucking money. And I would say, yeah, if you're, you know, you have a big portfolio, you want NFT exposure as almost like a call option to crypto or Ethereum. I think punks, you know, are like the best in that sense where you'll get some upside. You'll be protected on like a massive NFT downdraft, but you know, they're not gonna 10x in the next couple of years. Whereas, you know, there's a lot of other shit. I mean, you guys are really good at this, right? Like finding 100X's on like things that are moving. Maybe not you, Nick, but
that's because we're taking 100 swings and we're just missing so many times, basically.
I know, but I just wanted to, like, you know, like if I had a portfolio of crypto that's couple $1 million and I didn't have NFTs, yeah, I will buy a Squiggle, a Punk, a Denza, a Gazer, you know, something like that, to add that allocation to the portfolio, set it and forget it.
That's good because most of our audience is sitting with millions in crypto trying to figure out
where do I put this stuff?
What the next step is.
You asked a question, I gave an answer.
Yeah,
no,
come on, Nick.
I think you actually have a
call you poor broke motherfuckers. This is how you treat your audience, Nick? Jesus Christ.
You're putting words in my mouth that I said. Okay, so I just don't appreciate that you would do something like that. But yes, that was what I was saying about the audience is like they got a couple grand that they're looking to spend on something, and they're trying to flip things for a $20 gain. And so that's usually what they're, I've chatted with a number of people, and initially I was like, that's ridiculous. But here's the reality. I did that same thing when I was like 16. Like, I remember like getting into stocks and being like,
wasn't that before the internet?
I mean, it was pretty early. I will say that. But I remember getting on like Ameritrade and going in like trading stocks and being like, yo, I just made like $80 on that trade. This replaces my job. I could just keep doing this. Because if you're like, I'm like lifeguarding at this time, making like $10 an hour or something like that. You get one good trade. You're like, damn, I did that. I made that money in 30 minutes. I can easily, you like do the math and you're like, on an annualized basis, I'm going to be making millions of dollars based on that one trade that you did or that I did. And I think there's a lot of people that get suckered into that same thing, especially with like Solana NFTs. And they're like, yeah, so if I buy this thing here and then I just flip that thing there, I'm going to make a couple $100 and like this is like really good. And somehow you end up losing it. Easy always comes to me with the somehow there's like a glitch in the machine and he's yielding, 10,000% annualized. And so he gives me some trade where I'm suddenly doing Solana DeFi. I was doing this the other day where I was yielding what are the two coins? Easy.
It was Rollbit and Solana. We were LPing Rollbit Solana in really tight time frames and making like 20% APY daily. It was so dumb.
So I was making 30% daily, yet for some reason my net position was just continuing to drop. So like,
that's what you're supposed to do.
I put in $15,000, walk away with 14,000, but somehow I'm yielding 50% a day or something like that. I don't understand how the hell that math adds up, but that's somehow anytime Easy comes to me with these, I'm like, yeah, like we're gonna go and get that. That was a long tangent. My apologies. I don't even know how I got to that destination.
We expected, Nick. Don't worry. Sergito, I was just on my phone looking up the last time you've come on this show, and I actually want to say it was August 17th, 2022, which is hilarious. It's almost a year ago to the day. So first of all, we need to do it way more frequently. But second of all, what I remember from when you came on that day is we asked you, because this was, August 2022, we were basically 2-3 months into that really aggressive crash in really all markets, but especially the crypto and NFT markets, right? It felt like, a vacuum came and just kind of sucked all the liquidity out. And at that time, I distinctly remember we asked you, do you believe that the quote unquote blue chips like Bored Ape Yacht Club, CryptoPunks, would ever hit their all-time highs again? And I remember that you confidently at that time said no. Do you still feel that way? Owning 4 punks, do you think that the all-time high for CryptoPunks will never be touched again?
So for all of them, no, right? Like the question was the current blue chips, which as we have seen today, it was all bullshit. I do think punks will. Yeah, I do think punks will go back to $500,000 or something like that. It's going to take time. It is going to take time. But I think Bored Apes are fucked. I think everything else is pretty fucked as far as like getting back to those levels. You can trade it.
That's what I'm talking about. We're getting pumped up. Sergio coming in.
I want to hear what
somebody
he's
said the drugs Nick took finally kicked in, and I can see it in like just boom happening on screen. Let's be honest with each other. This shit was not worth that much money at the time, and then we all got caught up in it, and it's gonna change the world, and yada yada yada. No, and so yes, for the most part, they are shit coins with pictures, as Colby once said famously. I think that assets that can transcend that will hold value. And a lot of them within that small category will end up appreciating, right? So punks, fine art, first ones in museums, squiggles, like, generative stuff, 101s from select artists. People forget, like most NFT artists are like 30 years old, right? Like that's supply, and they've supplied like 50 101s in 2 years.
Oh,
bro,
sure.
rents due, babies crying. Like, I mean, artists need to keep minting to survive, especially now that royalties have people realize they're a mirage. And so that's why, I love all my artist friends, but people are like, oh, you're buying punks. Why didn't you buy, A101? And I'm like, because punks are Lindy. And so, squiggles are Lindy, like things like that. And so that's why I kind of like, I'm starting to be all over the place. I need some of whatever Nick took, but yeah,
it's cocaine, dude. It's cocaine. Let me tell you what
happens in the morning.
You got to start your day with it, man. That's what they're telling me nowadays. Is that you got to start with it, man. Crazy story here. Easy, dude. What did you do? Like, I'm getting alerts on my phone that we're selling shit on the site. Easy, like, set
drop
up
something. And we're seeing how well it'll actually work.
Mid-interview.
He's trying to one up me.
I'm one upping Nick.
And he's selling a hat that says that I can't code.
So if you go to the shop.thenifty.com, we have 14 hats that just simply as you can put it, just state Nick can't code.
3 or 4 of them sold. Like,
back
what the
of
hell,
them
dude?
has the best part. It has his seahorse, his V Friends V1 seahorse embroidered on the back. So it's a moment in history. We know Nick cannot code. Feel free to grab one. You know,
Clemente, can you pin the URL? I want to get back to the interview. We'll show the item in a minute. Unexpected during the interview.
I'm just getting alerts, so I had to say something about it. I went from cocaine to getting alerts on my phone with this. I apologize, man. Like I'm
good.
sorry.
I need to pick up one of those hats. I love my crypto hats. This is actually our Sonic gave me this. It's Sergeant Pepe, freedom to transact.
Oh, from the meme cards. That's sick.
Yeah. It's a little dirty because we have dogs and they just love to jump all over. But yeah, I wanted to wear on the show because it's one of my favorite hats. Yeah. So where were we? Apes. I mean, you saw it, right? Moonbirds, Azuki, all that shit. At some point, people realize that they're holding assets that don't really give them more other than access to parties and things that have a value, yes, but maybe not $120,000 worth of value, just maybe.
Fair. And people are calling into question the number of assets in the Yuga Labs ecosystem, whether the focus on video games and, building a AAA game studio will take away from the high value assets. If we think about crypto cycles for a moment, how much stock do you put in the Bitcoin halving, the 4-year crypto cycle, given that the macro environment we're in right now is starkly different than the previous 3 crypto cycles? Previous 3 were kind of in a, post Great Recession bull environment. And obviously this is much different. How much stock do you put in that?
It would be dumb to say there's nothing there because, charts don't lie. It's a very, very clear chart. Nick is dumb and can't code. Love it. I'm picking one of those up. That's amazing.
What the hell?
Give this kid a raise. Yeah. So listen, there's definitely, something there. I think also the business cycle tends to be like 4 or 5 years. So it kind of just matches that. I think humans are cyclical by nature. Everything that we do is cyclical, right? We go around the freaking sun once a year and our planet spins every 24 hours and we go to school on cycles and everything we do is cycle, like literally everything. So there's some sort of cycle. The Bitcoin halving thing, the stock to flow model, probably one of the first thing anybody finds when they come into crypto. Is one of the first things that I saw. And I still follow it just to like our curiosity. And it called for a low in March of this year. And it's so far worked out. So, is it an investment strategy? Will I launch a hedge fund to just trade the Bitcoin cycle off that? No, but there's something there. And yeah, I wouldn't discount it, but I wouldn't go all in based on it. And it continues to kind of play out. I think that if you look specifically as what's his name, Plan B's stock to flow model, it looks like the waves are actually having like less amplitude. And it does look like eventually they can turn, but when we have one more cycle, one more pump, get that 100K, and then, move on to something else. So yeah.
Yeah, great response. And you proactively brought up Solana when we were talking about different tokens earlier. I feel like Solana sold off as if it was, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX's native token, right? That's kind of how it sold off. It sold off significantly harder than everything else during the FTX debacle. And I understand why, but I think that it's starting to settle that, hey, this is a legitimate coin. It's a legitimate chain. It's actually really fun to use. It's really good for NFTs. The gasless transactions and instant transactions are pretty nice. What attracts you to Solana? What do you think is interesting about it?
That I can make money on it.
That's the name of the game. Like what? Like the reason we're here is
I don't marry the
make
trade.
money.
You know what? Like you can't really marry your trades. And I think it was very undervalued for what its potential is. Again, you still have a bunch of builders, friends like Mike Dudas, who's always reminded me of how much stuff is being done on Solana. And yeah, no, I think it can make me money. So I like it. If it can't make me money, then I don't like it. And I tried not to mid-curve stuff too much sometimes. And my Solana trade is just like a pure left curve kind of trade where if people come into the space, they're not going to want to pay ETH mainnet gas prices. And so I think it's a solid alternative to that. It was very pumped by like the FTX ecosystem, but that also meant that a lot of builders were very well funded, and so they're still there. And yeah.
Nice. And last question for me, at least. I don't know if Easy or Nick have any questions. What do you think of Doge? To me, Doge represents a coin that normies like to buy. They see the price being low. I feel like the people that come and buy the top, it's not uncommon for them to buy Doge. There's a dog. Elon Musk pumps it. What do you think of Doge?
I think Doge will trade as some sort of like Elon X proxy at some point. Actually, the first thought that came to mind yesterday when I first saw the Bitcoin headline from, SpaceX, my first thing I did, I went to TradingView and I charted Bitcoin versus Doge to see if I could see some sort of sale of Bitcoin to buy Doge over like a VWAP over the 3 months. Actually, you can see Elon's Bitcoin buy from early 2021 in the chart because it's just a VWAP in a 45-degree line. And so that's the first thing that I saw. I went and I looked for it. It wasn't there. So I'm like, okay, so he didn't sell Bitcoin to buy Doge. And obviously it didn't turn out that he sold Bitcoin. But I do think that given the way he is, you'll be dumb to not think that at some point this comes into play. Again, he doesn't even have to like buy it, right? Just narrative. We saw what happened when he tweeted out one of the 6529 meme cards that they went from like 1 to 8 Ether because Elon tweeted it out. And so he can't help himself. He's like Nick, but with money. And so, and yeah, like at some point when things turn fun again and shit, I can see him kind of like pumping it, either on purpose or accidentally. So I think for me, that really becomes kind of like the Elon proxy coin.
Great insight. Nick or Easy, any questions for Sergito about NFTs, crypto, macro, real estate, anything?
Nothing for me. I think he answered everything as far as I've been interested in. I mean, it's just a crazy time. I am interested to see how NFTs perform over time. I mean, I guess Sergito, like, do you think there's going to be another cycle, or do you think it's going to, like, for NFTs specifically, or do you think it'll be a shift in kind of what that market looks like? Like, the way I look at it, I'm more leaning towards cheaper, more custodial wallets, wider audience reach versus $50,000, $100,000 assets aside from art.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely going to be 20 more cycles in our lifetime, I think. Which assets perform, I have no fucking clue, right? I don't think it's going to be the old assets, right? I don't think it's going to be the Moonbirds and the Azukis. Obviously, I have a lot of thoughts about Moonbirds, but that's for another day. But like all that stuff, all that class, that 2021 class or 2022 class, whatever, of assets, I don't think it's going to be them. It's going to be new stuff, right? If you're the new kid, you're coming in, you're buying new shit. You're buying, it's kind of like the ape trade, the Milady trade. Like it's new stuff that pumps. And so will we have another NFT cycle? Yes, just like we had many other crypto cycles. But just like the fungible token cycles, it wasn't EOS, it wasn't all that stuff from 2017 that pumped this time around. It was Solana, Avalanche, yada. Cycles, yes. Same assets, no.
Brilliant response, like the others. Nick, anything for Sergito?
What trade do you regret the most?
God, just one?
Well, I remember, how are the Meridians looking? I remember that one.
Oh, that was bad. You know what? It wasn't as bad as the Singularity, but that was me learning. I had just flipped a Fidenza for like 400K in like 2 weeks, and I used the money to buy Meridians. So even though I lost 160K on the Meridians, I still I realized for the first time in my life that I needed to take a step back when I have a big gain and not immediately kind of like feel rich and go out and like try to do it again. And so I've been a lot more consistent with my trading because of that since. It was a great lesson. And luckily, it was like profit money that I lost, not new money. The one trade I regret the most, and I think this will haunt me forever, is it was not a trade. It was something where I was about to sell people right before the auction, the Christie's auction, and I kept janking the floor price. I was a floor and I kept janking it up, and then somebody undercut me. His sold, and then I chased the floor lower like 200K, and that really fucked up with my head for the next 6 months, where I was just off my game. And really made me question myself. I ended up paper handing like a hoodie punk and some other stuff because of that. So it wasn't a particular trade indeed. I still like 5x that people, but I left like a 15x on the table that, just really changed the way that I traded for the next 6 months.
And that Beeple, was that one of the pieces that he dropped in like December 2020 open edition on Nifty Gateway, one of those?
It was before it was Politics is Bullshit, which is 1 of 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I sniped that for 17K. And then I was trying to get like 300K out of it. And somebody got 250 right before the auction. And yeah, it was not really a good feeling. It was massive. It was massive regret. I mean, you guys have all felt it, right? Like the massive regret of not making a sale, knowing that you could have sold it. And then just, I would have bought punks with that money because there's only a couple of things you could buy. And obviously that would have done really well. And so the snowball effect was quite significant. It took me a while to get past it, but it is what it is now. It's part of the game. And just I think about the fact that I'm little old, 37, but hopefully we'll be doing this for forever because I really enjoy it. And so if that lesson's gonna make me 1,000 X's down the line, then fuck it, I'll take it.
It ain't going anywhere. Infinite regret, as they say. We've all been there. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great guest today. Sergio Silva, Sergito. You can check out his content on Real Vision. He's made a few appearances there. Works over at Fireblocks. So I guess it's not a consumer product, but if you're looking for a job, check out, I don't know if Fireblocks wants us to be talking about them on this show. Anywhere else that people should follow you, obviously on Twitter, at Sergito. Any other calls to action, Sergito?
Yeah, somebody's asking what I'm hiding in the background with the heavy blur. So this right up here is a painting that my mother made of me of a tiger back in my high school graduation. And then on the hallway, we have a bunch of physicals from, let's see, Grant, Ness, ACK, Neurocolor, Slime Sunday, and Drift. And then my dogs make a mess, so you should just blur my background. I'm not trying to hide bodies or anything like that. Where to follow me? Yeah, Twitter, Sergito. I also run a project called Seize the Meeps. Very, very, very inexpensive edition art featuring Meebits and Punks, which is wrapped up the season today. Actually, we have cards left. Our last card is open for 24 more hours. It's 0.05. It's really cute. I really like Meebits, which is funny you guys didn't ask because, that's something that I get like thrown eggs about. But yeah. And so Seize the Meeps. It's also on my Twitter if anybody wants to take a look. It's really cool art, It's Jack Kaido, for example, has a card that he made for us. It's like 0.02 Ether floor. I think Jack's going to be, very, very, very successful. He already is, but even more so. And so, yeah, really cool way to get cool art for very, very low floors right now.
And what's the name of that artist? The last one you mentioned? Jack what?
Jack Kaido.
Kaido. K-I-D-O or?
K-A-I-D-O.
Jack Kaido. Well, look at that. A little info from Sergito on the way out here. Yeah, check out That's really cool, man. That's a very cool art style. And look, you've known how to pick several artists, so it'll be interesting to see the future of this Jack Kaido gentleman. I'll have to check out his work. Thanks so much for joining the show, man. It's a real pleasure. We got to do it more often than once every calendar 12 months, but we really appreciate you taking some time with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the invite. Again, congrats on all the success and the glow up, and still really sorry about calling your deck shit, Nick. I actually sent it to a VC and I said top signal. I was not wrong.
Not wrong. It was literally the top for crypto. Literally the top.
Not wrong. I was not wrong.
I think Nick was about to say what?
Cleanse my soul. I've been carrying that weight for 2 years and I just wanted to do it live. Cleanse my soul. Yes.
Well, I feel so great about that. appreciate that. We're building a business. Here's the funny thing about that. We're basically one of 5 people building a business now in the crypto space. So that's like that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm talking like, I'm just so proud of you guys. How, like, seeing how it started and, you know, where it's going and where it is now. It's amazing. So, you know, mad congrats.
Thanks, man. I think Nick was going to say what glow up, because during a bear market, it's funny to you know, obviously offer praise, but we really appreciate it. And this was an absolutely great show. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Sergito at Sergito on Twitter and check out some of the projects that he was talking about. We do the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, each and every week. Yeah, I guess so. We have a merch item unexpectedly dropping on the show today. Didn't know that we were going to interrupt an interview with Sergito to sell
I'm getting notifications basically that
how many of these were there? How many were there?
There's 14.
Are there any left?
There's 2 or 3.
Okay, so shop.thenifty.com. You can buy a Nick
right now.
Sergito's buying a Nick Can't Code hat. It has Nick's little V-friend that he spent $10,000 on and is worth like $600 now because Gary Vaynerchuk texted him and told him to buy it. And so he just bought it and was like, all right, cool, what now? And then Gary just didn't text him back. This is a little response from Easy, I guess, on my behalf, because the PO Sucks shirt was such a successful merchandise item that we dropped, I want to say earlier this week or maybe last week. Anyway, shop.thenifty.com for the Nick Can't Code hat. We'll be back on Monday,
bullshit,
ladies.
by the way.
We'll be back on Monday.
Hopefully I get like with the amount that we're making from this, which is another $100, by the way, where I think we're going to make $100 of profit on this. And none of it's going to me. So I still have lost $10,000 on that V-friend. So that's
we'll give you a 5% royalty, buddy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts, or of course the YouTube stream. We'll be back Monday. Have a good weekend. Try to touch some grass. Don't look at the charts, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you later.